we have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open. Sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that fucking door down. Excuse my language.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Brad.
You know, I didn't care for the way she left, Jay, and I think that based on that alone, I'm going to have to change my planned vote for November. To vote for the guy that's going to bring fascism to the United States of America.
It's either laughing or fascism. That's it. These are the only two options we have. Look, I love that clip. It says a lot about like how she feels about, you know, sort of equality and everything else. Also, I just like hearing politicians say, kick that fucking door open. That works for me. I like it. I dig it. More of that. All right. There was not a major political event this week, thankfully. That's great. No one was shot and or resigned. But there is plenty to talk about. This will not be for premium members. This will not be a 3-hour show like it was last week. Holy shit. Yeah. But there is quite a bit to talk about and some good details to get into. I do want to say just right up front before we get into it. Look, we had some like weird issues with across our network of shows with our website. So those all have been resolved. If you are looking to sign up for our premium content, go to lookforwardShow.com/premium to sign up. If you want to join our Discord, by the way, to talk to us and, you know, talk with all the rest of the listeners and everything else, we have a pretty good time in there. Make sure you go to lookforwardShow.com/fans, and that will take you to where you need to go. So premium content is $5 a month. That means you get the rest of this show every week amongst many others. So check all those things out and, you know, proceed. All right, Brad, how insane is this week? Let's downplay.
You know how sometimes like you go to the furniture store, right? And you know, you see a couch and you're like, you measure it out and you look at it, you're like, I think this would, you know, fit perfectly in my living room. And so you buy it and it gets delivered and you put it in there and you stick your dick in between the cushions and it just doesn't feel like you thought.
I'm sorry. What?
I'm sorry, what? Or, you know, you get it home and you stick your dick between the cushions and it doesn't feel like you thought that it was going to feel like. Well, then you would have a lot in common with vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance, who may or may not have fucked a couch. He didn't, but that's not going to stop me from believing that he did.
Look, here's what I would say. As members of the side of politics that is supposed to be accepting of diversity and, you know, and inclusion, right? And equality, not in that order. What I will say is us denigrating what can only be described as heterosexuals is not okay. It's that's not my joke. It's someone else's. I thought it was fucking hilarious. Look, it's a bad week for JD Vance. Like, he is having a hell of a time, dude. As someone pointed out, I thought it was a very, very good analogy. He's being Richard Geared, right? Like Richard Gere had that fucking rumor that happened with him with the fucking gerbil. Look, you look it up. I'm not gonna fucking tell you about it. Welcome to the internet. And he can't shake that, because if you come out and say, I didn't fuck a couch, bro, you look insane, right? You can't say that, because then everyone, like all the weirdos on the internet, us, know what this goofball rumor is. But the normies don't know what it is. And if you bring it to them, they're going to think you sound insane. And they do. So, yeah.
They're also hearing that JD Vance might have fucked the couch. Like they don't understand where it's coming from. All they're seeing is that is JD Vance fucked a couch. And then that was the story for a couple days. Then it turns out that JD Vance was searching for human dolphin bestiality on Twitter for some reason.
Yeah, women on dolphin porn. Just saying. Now that part's not made up. He did, in fact.
No, that part is true.
Did Twitter search dolphin and woman. I'm just saying he did. I'm not telling you the context, because, you know, obviously I'm a huge fan of just telling you the hard facts with no context. I'm just telling you that's what he tweeted and nothing else. I will not comment further. So, yeah, they are feeling, the Republican Party and Donald Trump very specifically are feeling a little bit of buyer's remorse on picking J.D. Vance as the VP nominee. look, all jokes aside,
Mhm.
those aren't jokes. Those things really happen, by the way. There's no way to verify it. I'm just saying, there's no way, especially according to the Associated Press. The biggest issue here is they just picked this guy because Donald Trump was so sure he was going to have an easy peasy campaign, call Biden old, go after him, and then you just walk your way into the White House. So they just picked a guy who just doubled down, as we talked about last week, on Donald Trump's policies, and now it is biting them squarely in the ass with Kamala at the top of the ticket.
Yeah. Well, and I'm wondering if they even fucking vetted him at all, because the other bad thing that's been happening, aside from the fucking, the couch porn jokes, is that all these like clips of him on social media giving speeches talking about like, oh, like fucking women are just, like a lot of women are just, childless cat ladies and we don't need to pay attention to them, and saying that he gets bad press because most journalists are unhappy and miserable and angry and childless adults, and also floating out fucking wackadoo political ideas like, hey, like if you have kids, they should get votes, and you as their parents should get to control their votes, because again, Republicans are for some weird reason fucking obsessed with increasing very specifically white birth rates around the country, because they're afraid of the racial makeup of America sliding away from a white majority. Spoiler alert, it's going to happen whether you fucking like it or not.
Right.
So deal with it.
Stop. Weird. But
it's just a lot of fucking gross statements that weren't made that long ago. Like, this isn't he said Trump might be America's Hitler in 2016 shit. Like, this is stuff that he said on the campaign trail when he was running for the Senate,
like
when he had to appeal. Yeah, when he had to appeal to the most right-wing aspects of that party in order to secure the nomination in the primary, running for governor. And that's and one of the things that's been interesting about it, and I think something that's working really well, and you talked about this too, when you on TikTok, when you posted a video in response to that Vivek Ramaswamy tweet where he's like, oh, like you guys are being so fucking childish talking about, couch memes and shit like that instead of the issues. But like hearing someone talk about how, oh, like we don't need to pay attention to women who don't have kids, or, talking about, hey, like we should give fucking votes to children and let their parents like basically give extra vote for to parents who decide to have kids.
This is one of the weirdest policy thought processes. We'll dig into that.
That's what I'm saying, is that he's like, people are digging up a lot of stuff that's just like weird fringe shit that nobody's ever heard before, that when you hear it, unless you're like a fucking red pill coded, fucking right wing 4chan piece of shit, you're just like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? And it makes him sound weird. And that's been the fucking story that a lot of Democrats bring out. Like, yeah, these guys are kind of fascist leaning, and yeah, they want to do all these things to take away your freedoms and liberties, but also they're fucking weird, man. Like, they're just weird fucking dudes that really don't belong anywhere near the fucking presidency. And now that sort of thought process is also bleeding onto Trump as well, because people aren't afraid to come out and say it, because the point that you alluded to on TikTok, Gen X politicians, we haven't really seen one run for president yet, not this late in the game, and not really fucking, like, they're not the type to fuck around and mince words.
No, and look, it's interesting, right? Because the second that Biden gave the reins over to Kamala to be like, hey, I'm endorsing you, you're the person. The second that happened and the money started flowing in, and it was like, oh shit, there is no division inside the party really about this. Everybody is on board. Hell yeah, let's go. Once that happened, there is a change that happened in this race that is not just about people like excited about the candidate. That's no longer what it is. there is a generational shift in how politics is seen, right? We have, I mean, I know it feels like we had a Gen X president before because it's like Obama was like young and fucking not decrepit and cool and like played basketball and shit and didn't just like golf all day, right? Like every other white male president before him. But Obama's a boomer, right? And, you know, and it's weird to say that because they're like, but he's not lame. He seems like a decent dude, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like my granddad, right? But the problem, and he's, you know, he's sort of on the late end of the boomer era, but he's still a boomer. Like he still was raised in a very boomer era. And what happens, as I pointed out, is those guys, men and women of those generations and older, have always long seen this sort of bipartisan thing as being a real possibility because in their lifetime it was, right? It's not crazy to think, oh, well, yeah, the Democrats and Republicans, they talk shit or whatever, but then they go in a back room, cigarettes, martinis, and they kind of all figure it out, right? That's the long held, you know, statement that have, oh, they go in the back and then they do it, right? And everybody kind of comes out and goes, you got what you wanted. I got a little bit of what I wanted. All worked out. You son of a bitch.
Both sides are walking away unhappy, and that's how you know you got a good deal. Like
all right. Thumbs up, everybody. Yeah. We'll see you tomorrow, you son of a gun, right? And then they just all walk away, right? And everybody, there's no hurt feelings. They can still be friends outside of that, right? Because
actually, if you recall, that was actually a criticism of Obama that he made a joke about. I think during the correspondence dinners, they were just like, remember he was criticized for not like having a bourbon with Mitch McConnell, and he's like, have a drink with Mitch McConnell. He's like, you have a drink with Mitch McConnell.
Fuck yourself, I hate him, right? And so,
can you imagine that?
Right. And so Obama was, while a boomer, was the closest we had ever seen to somebody being like, these guys are dicks and I don't like it and I don't trust them. But he still had a little bit of that, like, well, we can all kind of work together. I believe in us, blah, blah, blah. That's not what's happening now. Now you're dealing with a person who is a Gen Xer, and they've only seen Republicans be who they really, truly are, which in our lifetime, right? In the last 40 years, which is they're pieces of shit. And they are not trustworthy. They do not compromise. They go out of their way to do dirty shit to Americans and not work across the aisle, right? They do all right, let's work across the aisle. I'll stand here. You walk halfway towards me. Look, we've compromised, right? Like that's not what that is. Right?
Like it's important to kind of, and I think this is a great point. I don't see enough people making it. What was happening when Kamala Harris was kind of hardening her political ideology was the very beginning of like the Newt Gingrich revolution inside of the House, right? Where the Republicans took over the House for the first time in literally half a century.
Yeah, 50.
And Newt Gingrich was like, we're gonna be fucking assholes, and we're gonna fight like it's a bare knuckles fucking boxing, and that's kind of shaped the direction of the Republican Party. And it's just crescendo. Like it's not like that's where they started, and it's ballooned into what we now have as like the MAGA wing of the Republican Party, and this is how they fucking play. So I mean, and again, if you think like having a Gen X president is going to exacerbate those divisions, just fucking wait until we get our first fucking millennial presidential candidate.
Right, millennial dude. They're going to be like, the fuck are you talking about? No, fuck these guys. Like, get out of here. Crush them at all avenues, right? So I think Republicans don't know what's happening because they've never seen Democrats like this. And it's, you know, what's really fucking amazing about it is not only are you seeing Democrats go on the defensive, and it's everywhere. It's not just the like
go on the offensive.
Go on the offensive. It's not just the top of the ticket going on the offense. It's permeating the entire party. Even the fucking boomers in the party are like, oh shit, we can do this? Oh, hell yeah, dude. I've been waiting to say some shit, right? But they've always gotten the direction of hold, keep your powder dry, don't attack, relax, let's see if we can work it out. No, man. Dude, I saw a post on TikTok from Kamala HQ, right? This is their team, right? This is not someone else posing as them. This is them. They posted the clip of the Kendrick Lamar song Euphoria, where he goes into like, I hate the way you talk, I hate the way you dress, all that shit. And like, I hate the bitches you fucked. Like, those are lyrics. I'm not making them up, right? With images of Donald Trump, like the way he talks, and it's like showing him like, oh, like being weird and all stuff. With using, you know, like playing part of the song that says nigga in it, like everything. They are unrelenting because they don't give a fuck. Because you have young people at the helm who are like, oh, you thought this was a game. You thought we were going to run like 2020. We were going to do this highbrow, they go low, we go high shit. No, motherfucker. We know you. We know who you are. Oh, you'll bitch and complain about it on Piers Morgan or CNN or Fox News. We don't give a fuck. Here's a knife, jugular. Like, we don't care. So you are taking on what I would regard, and this is my generation, one of the pettiest generations that has ever existed, right? So prepare for the new world. This idea of like, they're calling us weird and I don't think it's very fair. This is juvenile. That's what Vivek Ramaswamy tweeted out. It's like, and someone responded, probably a Gen Xer, and like, this guy's got big ass shoes on. Don't give a fuck, dude. Don't give a fuck. Guess what? They are destroying the vice presidential nominee via memes, dude. Via memes. They're just being dicks. That's it. They're just being dicks. And guess what? It's working. You have never seen a party like this on the offense. You've never seen them like this. And what is it? Tim Walz, who is another guy who's kind of auditioning to be vice president. He came out today. I think he's a boomer, right? He's ironically, he's Brad Pitt's age, which is hilarious. So people are like, these guys are the same age? Like, because this guy looks like my great-grandfather. But he's a boomer, right? He's still in that sort of Obama age boomer, right? But he's still a boomer. He came out and he's like, yeah, these guys are weird. They're like, they freak us out a little bit, but we're not afraid of these guys. And he just starts digging in the Republican shit. And I'm like, this is the Democratic Party we've been waiting to show up. Because people of our age, this is how we talk and look at politics when we talk on Instagram, TikTok. You see these people like who are way more fucking real. And you hear often people go, I'm way too real for politics and stuff like that. It's generally Gen Xers. And now you have one of them at the fucking helm. It's going to be a different fucking story. And I mentioned in another post, and then we'll move on. Kamala Harris went on the season finale of RuPaul's Drag Race, right? Mm-hmm. People go, oh, it's a Democrat, whatever. It's not a big deal. But it is a big deal. Because the only other person from the Democratic Party who's ever been on that show, as much as they are for LGBTQ rights and everything else, the only other person is AOC, a millennial, right? So you have the presidential nominee going on there telling people, hey, like not even saying like, I don't think her whole thing was necessarily like vote for me type of thing, as much as it was just get out to vote, right? Like they've been apparently on that show, they've just been pushing like voter registration. Like, so Trump could go on there. But the point is, RuPaul became a sort of household name in about 1994, right? Mm-hmm. That's the same time Gingrich comes in. It's the same time Kamala Harris is cutting her teeth in politics, right? Like you said, hardening her perspective on politics. You would never see a Joe Biden go on that show. It's not because Joe Biden is a bigot towards, people in drag or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, he would just be a fish out of water.
Absolutely. It'd be like, fuck is going on here? This is
what are you doing here, Joe Biden? Did you get lost on the way to the...
I don't know, and I want to go home. I'm very tired. Do you guys have ice cream? For the love of God, please let me leave.
Yeah.
But you would never see him there because there's also an idea of like he doesn't want to scare the normies who in the Democratic Party, right? She's not afraid to go there because you know who made a big deal about it when it came out. The only person I saw make a big deal about it is a Republican. Oh, this is going to end her campaign. No, dude, you're wrong.
I don't know if you realize, by the way, too, normies watch RuPaul's Drag Race. Like
yeah, it's a super popular fucking show. Right, exactly. but the thing is, only Republicans think that that's a scary thing because they're old. Oh, you're going to be associated with it. She's not afraid to be associated with it. She's had dinners at the White House with the people from the show. So, like, as much as the Democratic Party has no problem in standing even in gay pride parades and stuff like that, being on TV and being like an unabashed ally is a very different thing, right? You can grab that footage and be like, look at the presidential nominee, look what they're doing. But she's not afraid of that. Why? Because Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, Gen I, whatever the fuck is coming next, that shit is normalized to us.
Well,
Dude,
and that is the thing. It's normalized to a bigger.
RuPaul. Get out of here.
It's normalized to a bigger part of the electorate than I think Republicans admit. I can't remember where I saw the stat, but someone made the point, the call out that since the 2020 election, 20 million boomers have died since the 2020 election.
This was Scaramucci.
Scaramucci, that's right. Meaning they're not voting anymore. And 40 million Gen Z / millennial new voters have either registered to vote or have come of voting age and are now able to vote in these elections. So boomers are losing ground. And to your point, like this, like RuPaul's Drag Race is the world that we live in. It is just a standard part of the country that we live in now. It's an entertaining show. You shouldn't, as a politician running for president, you shouldn't be scared to go on there. I'm sure that the same people who were criticizing Kamala Harris for going on to RuPaul's Drag Race would have also criticized Bill Clinton for going on Arsenio Hall playing the fucking saxophone in 92. When that was a big pop culture moment of its time, even a bigger moment just because people are more keyed into like local programming and shit like that nowadays. But like that's when I saw that Kamala was going on Drag Race, that was the first thing that popped in my mind. I was like, oh, this is her like Arsenio moment, like Bill Clinton had. And that was a huge fucking thing for him because it was the first time that a presidential candidate had appeared on what you would consider to be like alternative media. Like, yeah, it wasn't a big deal for a presidential candidate to go on like the Tonight Show or on Letterman, but Arsenio Hall was not playing to those same audiences. Like Arsenio Hall had a very different audience than other late night shows did. So that was a big deal for there as well. But to kind of bring it back around to JD Vance, I think Republicans are seeing like, oh, it was all well, and we talked about this last week. It's all well and good to pick a guy when you think that you're running up the score and you just kind of like want to win harder, if that's the case. Now they understand that as they've seen the immediate shift that Harris's entry to the presidential race has had, from the perception standpoint. Like, we don't even have good polling numbers yet to really show her impact on the race yet. But just the perception of how the race has shifted, all of a sudden they're looking at JD Vance and they're like, holy shit, like we have a guy that's not going to get us, not only is not going to get us any voters, but is actually going to probably turn a lot of fucking people off that we might have been able to pull back in.
Women. And look, one last point on this. I don't think you saw this, but this is something I saw and I thought it was really fucking fascinating. So you know what the Villages is, right, in Florida?
Yes. Oh, Jay, I work in the golf cart industry by trade. I know what the fuck.
Oh, that's your Black Friday. That's like, you're like, oh shit, the Villages need new golf carts. Let's fucking go, baby. 75% of Brad's business is just shipping golf carts to yeah. I guess you really do have to know what the Villages is.
I really do.
Like, don't fuck around. That's our biggest. Don't say anything negative, Jay. That's our biggest client. So that's hilarious. So the Villages, for people who don't know, not just Brad's favorite place, but it is also a very large retirement community in Florida, right? And it is notoriously very conservative. And here's the thing. They had a rally. I think it was called like a golf cart rally for Kamala the other day. The more liberal-minded folks who live in the Villages, those poor bastards. And it had like very good turnout. Like there was a lot of fucking people there, right? Like quite a few, especially considering it's a sort of a conservative hotbed. Here's like, people are like, oh my God, like what is going on? What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. There are women that have waited 60, 70 fucking years to have a real chance at seeing the first female president. They're excited. This is a thing we talked about when she was first endorsed. People, once the noise starts to come down, people go, oh shit, this is a historic moment. I could be on that bandwagon. I could have the shirt when they say she fucking won. They want that moment. And especially women who have been like, maybe they are a little conservative, right? Or maybe they married a very conservative man, so they don't talk about politics very often. And their husbands go, all right, we're going to vote for George W. Bush. And they go, yeah, I'm going to go in the fucking booth. And they're like, fuck this guy. I'm going to vote for who I want, right? Because sadly, there are women like that, right? That are in there.
Famously in my family, neither of my grandparents used to vote because they knew they would just cancel each other out, so they never bothered to even.
Oh, that's funny. Like, yeah, fuck this guy's vote. Fuck her vote. Like, you know what? All right, let's just stay home. Like, you want to get some eggs? Like, all right, let's go to Denny's. Like, fuck. That's hilarious. So, I think there is this idea, like, and I think people don't quite realize it yet. And JD Vance is going to really hammer that home. Yo, there's going to be women who are like, I don't like that guy. And I don't like what that guy's saying. And even as a conservative woman, I don't like what he's saying about women, right? Because he didn't say childless Democrats. He said childless women.
Childless women. Yeah.
Dude, I'm going to tell you, I know a lot of women like in their 40s and 50s who do not have kids for one reason or another. That shit rings very gross to them.
Well, and that's the funny thing is that, and this goes back to this thing that you and I talk about a lot on the show, is that Republicans aren't very wide of thought a lot of times.
Sorry,
right? Like well, yeah. They look at things from very myopic perspective. And so from the Republican standpoint, when JD Vance says something like he just kind of cavalierly throws statements like that out there, he thinks, or at least like it comes to his mind to think, all of these women that don't have kids, they chose not to have kids. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to throw scorn on them because they chose not to have kids. And I think that's fucked up because we need more white babies running around or something.
Hey,
when in the reality,
can we talk about what your wife looks like? Never mind. Go ahead.
Well, you know, it's not like she's white or anything. God, when you showed me that clip, holy shit. Anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked.
I'm going to go pull it. Go ahead.
Yeah, we go back there. But like a lot of women who have not had kids, is not for lack of trying. Like there are health issues that have prevented them from having kids. There are just other issues that might have come up that like maybe they were never in a good financial position to be able to have kids. Maybe they were never able to, find that one person they wanted to raise a family with. Like that's kind of fucking important too. Like, but not for lack of trying. And so when you kind of pigeonhole all of these people into this group, and also while this is happening, you're trying to limit access to women's health care, including abortion. You're trying to limit IVF access, which is, again,
counterintuitive.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense if you want people to have more kids. You're like, no, but only the natural way. Like, you can't be having these fucking test tube science babies. Like, that's not what we want. We want natural childbirth.
That makes me
that
makes me very mad personally, because my wife and I went through that. Like, dude, I say this with all due disrespect. When I hear Republicans say that, whoever they are, I want to knock your front teeth out. Like, I seriously do. Like, because you have no idea how fucking shitty and gross that is. Like, you just don't.
And we're already like that. Like, just that statement, just that shot, like the childless cat lady shit statement, getting out there into the ether has already brought in voices who, in the past, typically have been apolitical. Like the political article that we have linked talks about the response that Jennifer Aniston gave. Jennifer Aniston, to my knowledge, has never come out before ever and been like any political statements or anything like that. Like, she's someone who, is in the not quite to like the cynical nature of the Republicans, by sneakers too shit, but she's someone that I feel like wants to be beloved by everybody and doesn't like to make waves, which is fine. Like, it's perfectly okay to be that person and to not use their celebrity to speak up for causes. But when she hears JD Vance talking about it's, ladies that don't have kids are fucked up, and Jennifer Aniston, who does not have children, we don't know why that's
no,
the case,
she said.
Oh, has she said that? Okay.
Yeah, she said that she tried to do IVF and it was not successful. Like, that's why she got really fucking pissed about it. Like, dude, that's fucked up. By the way, and again, I could knock a person's front teeth out for saying shit like this because the only people who say this shit have never been through anything.
Right.
Like, you live in a fucking lovely, privileged situation. By the way, before I make the statement that I want to, 1 in 8 American couples is using some level of IVF or IUI to have kids. 1 in 8. So please proceed, Governor, by saying the most dirtbag shit out of your mouth.
And that's the extra point that I was going to make, is that Jennifer Aniston coming out and saying that shit now, I'm sure has reached a pretty healthy number of people who might not be keyed into politics, are keyed into Jennifer Aniston, that are now the first thing they're hearing about JD Vance is, oh, this guy that's running for vice president, yeah, he fucking hates women who don't have kids. Like, that's the first thing they're fucking hearing about him, all because I guess the Trump campaign didn't bother to vet him at all when they decided to make him their vice presidential.
One last point I'll make. And then I want to play the clip of JD Vance talking about his wife.
Oh, you found it? Okay.
It's a fucking doozy. Oh, yeah. One last point here. You know who else used IVF? Michelle Obama for her 2 kids. Yeah. So what now?
Bet they can't wait till Michelle Obama decides, you know what? I actually would love to make a stump speech.
Again, this is, what did I say? Dude, what did I fucking tell you 2 weeks ago? You better fucking pray that Kamala Harris does not have a medical issue in her history as to why she does not have kids. And now the Obamas have endorsed her, both Michelle and Barack Obama. And if you think that Michelle Obama will not use that fucking hammer to beat you over the head, that you said some dirty shit like that about women when it comes to not having kids, well, I feel like you don't really know black women, because she's going to use that shit because it's like, you're a fucking dick. And you are a dick, dude. You're a dick for saying that. But it's not just Vance. Vance isn't the one saying we need to ban IVF. That's the Republican Party that's saying that shit. It's insane. So, yeah, I know they're mad that we're calling them weird. But you are, though. You are, though. And you know why? It's because your constituency is also weird. And you have to appeal to the weirdest motherfuckers in the country. They're not normal, dude. They're not normal. Some of them are normal, right? Some of them are fucking classic, just shitbag Republicans. But some of them are like, oh, did this woman get raped by her father? Have the kid. Is the mother going to die?
Why would you want to compound that tragedy by having another tragedy of losing an unborn life? Like, that would just make it worse. No, I don't think it would. I feel like the emotional healing that the raped 12-year-old could possibly have for not having to carry her incest baby that's a product of rape to term and then raise it might actually outweigh the like having that, carrying that pregnancy to term.
Oh, well, they could give the kid. They could give the kid up for adoption. Really interesting. How many kids have you adopted? Well, I mean, somebody could adopt them. I mean, I've got kids of my own. Okay, but you could adopt another kid, yes? Well, taxes. It was a Democrat. So, like, they don't have an answer, right? So again, you're running head first into a fucking buzzsaw, dude. You're running headfirst into a buzzsaw because, again, I know it's hard to believe, but dude, I'm telling you, even conservative women are not going to be cool with you talking shit on women suffering through IVF and shit. Of course, there's going to be the fucking, the lunatics on the super far end of your spectrum that you think are the normies. They're not the normies, dude. Even if they fundamentally don't agree with Kamala Harris about shit, you get Michelle Obama out there and be like, hey guys, I actually had to have IVF. And by the way, there's a story in the Atlantic from 2018. I'm not making this shit up. Like, when people talk about it, they're going to be like, yeah, I mean, my cousin had that happen, or I had that happen, or my sister, or something like that. Because people know it's commonplace. It's commonplace. Dude,
well, and here's the funny thing is that the Republicans' original strategy was to say, all right, we've had a lot of losses with suburban women, and it's going to be hard to get those votes back. We'll take abortion out of the party platform and not talk about it in the hopes that Democrats don't bring it up either, so that we stop the bleeding, and we'll make up what we lose from suburban white women by getting black men and Latino men and by trying to get younger male voters. And again, I think that was some of the strategy. The more I think about it, the more I think there just wasn't any strategy with the JD Vance pick. Like, I think it really just did boil down to Trump's like, I like JD Vance. He's going to be me when I decide to step away, and I'm going to hand the keys to the kingdom to him. Like, I really think that's the extent of the strategy. But to the extent that people around him had strategy, I do truly think they looked at Vance as being like, hey, like, this guy can talk to younger white men and get them to fucking sign up for the cause and speak to them in a way that makes fascism sound cool. And that's not working. And certainly appears from early polls that a lot of the ground Trump had made up with Black and Latino voters has basically disappeared in the wake of Harris coming through.
Yeah. And look, it's only gonna get worse because they're going to say worse and worse shit. And here's the thing. The Republican Party has one base that they always have to go back to.
Yep.
White, racist, grievance bullshit. That's their base. And we're going to court the blacks and the Latino men. We got them. They're coming over. And it's like, and there's like all these white guys back there like, what about us? What are you saying for us? And there's like,
dude, the
blacks are the worst. Latins are the worst. They're like, thank you. And then it just turns people off.
A lot of the fringes of their party, we talked about it last week, were upset that they picked JD Vance, not because of anything that JD Vance has said, not because he called Trump Hitler, but because he has an Indian wife.
That's it.
Like, these are the people that you're trying to appeal to keep on board, to keep in line.
Well, speaking of that, let's go to JD Vance being interviewed by Megyn Kelly. She's still relevant? Not really. She still thinks Santa's white. Is that still her thing?
Probably.
God, conservatives are weird. She really argued it. Like Santa was a real fucking person. Cool. Santa Claus, the guy who comes in the chimney, is a real fucking person.
His name is Nick, Jay. Why don't you get that shit right? Santa's just his title.
My bad. Yeah, Republicans. Fucking weird. All right. So here's a clip of JD Vance being interviewed by Hasbin. Here you go.
I love my wife so much. I love her because she's who she is. Obviously, she's not a white person, and we've been attacked by some white supremacists over that. But I love Usha. She's such a good mom. Look, I love my wife so much. I love her because she's who she is.
Over and over again.
Obviously, she's not a white person, and we've been attacked by some white supremacists over that. But
imagine feeling the need to apologize for your wife's race.
Bro, I told my wife about this, and she was like, I would kill you if you answer a question like that. That's insane. She's not white, but she's very servile. I mean, she's doing her job, guys. She's raising these half-white children for America. She says the fucking 11 words or whatever, right? Like it's bizarre to me. Let me tell you how I would have answered this response. I would have come. I would have said, listen, Usha is the love of my life. She is a smart, brilliant woman. She clerked for fucking John Roberts. She's accomplished. She's brilliant. And if you got a problem with my wife, then you got a problem with me. End of fucking question. Like, dude, have some fucking balls. Have some balls. Who are you offending? White supremacist? Oh no. What does Nick Fuentes think? I'd be like, hey, Nick, here's my address. Why don't you come over? I'd kick the shit out of you too. Dude, why are you being a fucking punk bitch about it? Dude, again, it's big Ted Cruz energy. Dude, these dudes are talking shit on your wife, man. On your wife. And you're like, she's a very good mom. Dude, it's your wife. It's your wife. That's a woman that you have pledged that is the woman you're going to be with for the rest of your life. And you're lazy boy. But her as well, okay? And flip. But her as well, okay? So you could at least have the decency to be a fucking man. And I don't mean that in like, be an alpha male. But dude, you're her husband. Be a fucking man. Didn't you listen to that Macho Man song? Be a fucking man. And stand up for your goddamn wife as they're talking. Yo, they literally called her wife a street shitter. That's what they called her, dude. And you didn't have the balls enough to call that shit out directly on TV. You're a fucking coward. You're so much of a coward in that regard. I would never vote for you if I was a Republican, dude. I would be like, How are you going to stand up to anybody else? You can't stand up to a bunch of fucking clowns on the internet who talk shit about your wife. Come on, man.
Well, and here's the funny thing. I don't know. I don't know her. I don't know how involved she wants to be in this campaign. But I would imagine, regardless of how involved she wants to be in this campaign, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of her out on the trail, because he knows.
Hell no. Hell no.
He knows that that's not going to help them shore up the base. That's not going to help them turn out their core voters, because they don't want to see a fucking Indian woman standing up on stage next to him.
How do you not at some point go, I wonder if I'm in the wrong party? Like, what the fuck? The person you chose, the party is like, gross. You don't feel any
on one hand, by JD Vance's own admission, there are white supremacists that are in their party. Like that part was left out conveniently, but like we know what he's talking about. White their party.
White supremacist said something.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like, but they said it about your wife very specifically.
Right.
Why?
So that's on one hand, right? Like that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin, you have a political party who wants to make people who make over $400,000 a year pay more in taxes. Jay, you tell me, what's actually the bigger evil that you need to stand strong in the face of?
Well, here's the thing. I don't make $400,000.
We've been dealing with racism in America for 400 years. Come on. Like,
look, all I'm saying is
Vance isn't going to solve racism, but he can solve taxes.
That's right. That's probably his thought process, honestly. Look, I'm going to take the Republican stance, which is I don't make $400,000 a year, but one day I might, and so I'm okay with that. Like to me, it's just bizarre. It's a really bizarre. Bizarre is a very nice word, a very fancy word for saying it's weird, right? And it is. That's why this Kamala Harris campaign idea that the Democrats are just calling Republicans weird, it really works. And it resonates because at the end of the day, they say and do some weird shit, bro. Like they do. Yeah. And I think some of them inside the party are like, all right, that is kind of fucking weird. That's why Vivek got so mad about it. Like, bro, you guys do a lot of weird shit. Donald Trump is fucking weird. He's jerking two dicks off when he's dancing. He's lying about being shot by a bullet.
What's the Ricky Stinky line? Donald Trump's air dicking out there. He's double air dicking.
That's funny. The FBI came out this week and said, we're not sure if Donald Trump was hit by a bullet or a shard of glass. That's weird. That's a weird thing to fucking be. The Donald Trump's like, no, I was hit by a bullet. Okay, cool. Then why?
What's weird is not. Yeah, but I say what's weird is not the FBI saying that. What's weird is making a fucking big deal about it. Like, of course it was a bullet. How could you say it's not a bullet? This is fucked up. Yada yada. Like, that's fucking weird, man.
Cool. Then do this. Turn your head and show us your. Let's get an HD image of you, because every image I've seen of you when you're not thinking you're being filmed or whatever, your ear looks fine. And look, I'm not a physics professor or anything. But a high velocity bullet flying that close to your ear would do damage to your skin. Like, I've seen pictures of people who have been slightly grazed in the ear by a bullet, and there's literally a patch of skin that's missing because of the velocity of the bullet coming by your head. That's how it works, right? What is it? I remember reading a statistic, something like if a 50 cal sniper rifle was shot at your head and it missed it by a foot, it would still blow your head off because the velocity around the bullet, because it's so goddamn big, it does that much damage. You don't even have to hit the person. Just get close enough. So what do you think a bullet, any regular Joe bullet, gets within a millimeter of your ear? It would do damage to you. It sounds like what the FBI initially said, which is you got hit by a piece of glass that got shot by a bullet and it hit your ear. Why do you have to lie, and why can't you just say that happened?
Yeah, and again, that doesn't change the narrative of I almost died. Somebody tried to kill me. Like, you don't have to get hit by the fucking bullet for it to be a near miss assassination attempt. Like, the fact that someone took a shot at you is enough.
It's a big deal, dude.
Yeah,
but you can't stop fucking lying. So it is what it is. All right, so let's move on from there.
we try to take a break.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. We'll take a quick break and come right back. All right. Next up, presidential candidate assures voters they won't have to worry about voting in the next 4 years. You want to take this? I'm going to see if I can pull this.
Yeah. So the other big Trump story of the week was he was at Turning Point conference. Of course he was. Fucking Charlie Kirk's bros and brochachos over there. And basically he was imploring Christians, and I'll quote him directly, and I will give the devil's advocate view of the favorable way to interpret his comments, and then we will take the non-favorable way to interpret his comments. So, quote, Christians, get out and vote. Just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years. You know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians, and I'm a Christian. I love you. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good, you're not going to have to vote. So, the charitable way that you could interpret those comments is Donald Trump is trying to allege to Christians that if you vote him in as president, he and the fucking senators and House members you vote in with him will do so much to change the country that even if Democrats get back in office in 2028, they won't be able to undo all the fucking amazing changes that the Trump administration has been able to enact in those 4 years. And so, like, if you don't care about voting in 2028, you don't have to worry about it. I'll also give you another charitable interpretation. Trump is such and this is probably more realistic. Trump is such a narcissist that he really just wants you to vote for him to be president. And then after he's done, because this is probably the last time he's running in an election, and I say probably like, oh, he's term limited out. We'll see what would happen if he would actually test that guardrail, but whatever. But this is the last time he wants to run for president. And so he literally doesn't give a shit what happens to the Republican Party after he leaves. He just wants you to vote him in, and then he doesn't really care what you do after that. Those are the two more charitable interpretations of what he said. Of course, the uncharitable interpretation is that he's saying, oh, once you vote me in, there's a good chance that we'll make it so you don't even have to worry about having elections anymore.
That's my interpretation. So let's play the clip and we play, you decide.
Have to win this election, most important election ever. We want a landslide that's too big to rig. If you want to save America, get your friends, get your family, get everyone you know, and vote. Vote early, vote absentee, vote on election day. I don't care how, but you have to get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to.
That is weird.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. Here's the thing. I'm going to go by the Maya Angelou rule. When people tell you who they are, believe them. I think it's super strange after all these many years, since 2016, we have known this guy as a political entity, that you would give this guy the benefit of the doubt. I don't understand why. I see all these conservatives, well, he meant this and maybe he didn't mean that. No. I think it's very odd that you want him to say something else that he did not say. Take him at his word. I do. When that motherfucker says, I'm doing this thing, besides when he's just straight up lying, like, I didn't know this thing, like, that's the time where you go, all right, not buying it. But when he tells you, like, we are going to do X, it is because that is what he wants to do, right? So, like, you don't have to vote anymore. We're going to, he doesn't say, he says rig it. He literally.
No, he says fix it. He says fix it.
Excuse me. Fix it.
Yeah.
Fix what? Fix what? the voting system, right? No, I'm not buying it. And look, I understand it sounds conspiratorial to believe it. But frankly, I think it sounds crazy to not believe it because that is who he is. He has no compunction on stepping down if he is elected. He's not going to. He's not going to. This is a guy who's never conceded the last time he fucking lost. He's not going to step down. So, no. I'm sorry. This is one of those rare moments where he says it's actually not even that rare anymore, but he says the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
And he has been doing those kind of things for so long that it becomes normalized. That people go, well, yeah, he says crazy things. It's probably not true. No. He says crazy things and he does actually believe them. So no, I believe that he absolutely is telling you we're going to make it so that we do not have elections anymore. We are not interested in that because the last time he lost, what was he interested in doing? Nullifying the election. That was like, you can say, oh, well, they went to the courts, blah, blah, blah. No, they sent a bunch of assholes in there to disturb the election that they lost. And the funny thing is, he knew that he lost. He knew that.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. Is that it doesn't just matter what he's going to do and what they can do on a federal level, because there are a ton of state legislatures who are going to use every bit of their power to try to find ways to. I mean, again, they've been doing it. Like that's literally what gerrymandering is. They're using legislative power to disenfranchise people. And I'm not. And this shit's not going to happen in like Wyoming or Montana or all, like Oklahoma, like all these fucking reliable places where they know that Republican like their votes are going to go towards a Republican presidential candidate. But if you have like a light red state or a purple state that just happens to have like a Republican supermajority because they've gerrymandered on the local level, don't think that they won't try to find every loophole they can.
Yep.
To say to either amend the laws or to do something with the state constitution to say, do we really need to have our electors give our votes to the person who won the popular vote in our state, or can we give our votes to whoever the fuck we say it should go to?
Yeah, quite literally. Look,
so again, they like the last time they did this, they had to react quickly because the election happened. And they got caught flat-footed, and they fucking put on the full court press. Or sorry, what did fucking Peter Navarro call it? Like the fucking Green Bay plunge or something stupid like that.
Oh my God. Go back.
And they put they put a quick plan in place to try to fix it in 2 months. They've had the last 4 years now to figure out what they're going to do the next time this opportunity comes around. So. You don't have to necessarily believe like that Trump is saying like, oh, we're going to make it so that like elections are going to go away. Like you don't have to believe that, but just understand that the people that take their marching orders from him and take their cues from him are absolutely going to try to see if that's something that they can do, or not necessarily remove elections, but just make it so that your vote literally makes zero difference, just like they tried to do in 2020. Where they had all these states that were like, hey, people voted for this guy. Yeah, but we'd really rather have this guy. So let's try to muddle up the process so that we can just throw it to the House.
Yep.
Where our guy can be picked. And again, that's the other thing too. They don't even have to change, like they don't even have to see in the changing of laws. They just have to sow enough chaos that the House of Representatives is like, well, we can't fucking figure this shit out. So we just gotta, we gotta decide.
Yep.
And it's a Republican win every time when that happens because of how that decision process is made. Speaking of disenfranchisement, where
100%.
Wyoming's choice is worth the same as California's, despite a massive disparate choice in population. So.
Right. Yeah. Look, it's one of the biggest things that's going to happen this year is when it comes to this election, you're not likely to see a January 6th like you saw before. What you're going to see is this attempted coup from a legislative perspective, right, on the state level. You're not going to see a bunch of fucking yahoos running into the Capitol because the truth be told, you got a Democrat who's president and you don't control shit. So
and the person who probably is going to win the election is also the one that's overseeing the process to certify it as well.
Yeah, and by the way, the president has immunity. So
that's true,
right? Like you can run up into the Capitol if you want to. I wouldn't recommend it, right? Like I just wouldn't recommend that if the president is like, well, I ain't running for president. Like, shoot him. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, that sounds like a them problem, not a me problem, right? Because, again, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, the immunity situation is really good for things that cannot be reversed. Oh, they're already dead. Oh, well, like, you can't, like, there's nothing you can do. So I don't think you're going to see a sort of a physical reaction like that or a violent reaction. But what I do think you're going to see is sort of a coordinated state level attack. Now, here's the thing. It is damn near impossible to make those arguments about like, oh, we don't know, maybe blah, 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 if it's a fucking blowout.
Mm-hmm.
It's real hard. But if it's a razor thin fucking 2%, 3% type of bullshit, then Republicans going to go, fucking go for it, right? Like, because we might be able to hit him on the margins and kind of win this thing. But if Trump is getting his ass kicked and it's like, oh shit, this is like a Reagan-Mondale situation, there ain't nothing we can do to save this dude. Then they can't.
And just
not
just
that,
like,
not that I think that'll happen, but you need the win has to be so decisive that it's really hard for them to make a reasonable argument to anybody about it.
Yeah, and just because I hate pandering hopelessness, yes, the Republicans are going to try a lot of dumb shit, but Democrats also know that
they're not dumb.
That fight is coming. Like so like they're not going to get caught flat-footed or anything. I did want to bump up a story that we had later on in the docket just because it happened at the same event, and I found it fun. Interestingly enough, like, you know, much like a broken clock is right twice a day. At this same turning point speech, Trump actually made like a really astute political point.
I had not. So go for it.
And the crowd fucking booed him for it, which I find really funny. So the conversation during in the speech shifted to abortion. And Trump said, quote, like Ronald Reagan, I strongly believe in exceptions for life of the mother, rape and incest. I think it's very important. And they fucking booed him. And then Trump followed that up by saying, yeah, quote, don't forget, you have to go with your heart, but you also have to win elections. It's very important. You have to win. So go with your heart, do what you want, but you do have to win elections. We have elections that are very important to win, and if you don't do certain things, you're not going to win elections, and it'll be a very Pyrrhic victory. Now, first of all, I am fucking shocked that the word Pyrrhic exists in Donald Trump's lexicon. Like, I can't believe that that's a word that he knows
He
the
just heard
definition of, and used it correctly. Yeah, and used it correctly in a sentence.
Yes.
So like that's
very
number
good.
One. Yeah, that's number one.
Big boy word.
But again, a shockingly astute political observation from Donald Trump.
What it tells me though is the party is shifting further to the right than he is.
Yeah.
That's
or the one thing thing you got to give the man credit for, like you do in fact have to hand it to him. He's got really good political instincts. Like say what you will about the guy, but he's not a dummy. Yeah.
Sometimes, well, agree to disagree. But
he's not a dummy from like just a kind of a reading the
room. Yeah, he's very good. He's generally very good at reading the room. But the thing about this is he has created something, and I don't even know that he created it as much as he sort of helped solidify it and like kind of bring it into the mainstream, is this sort of very fringe right-wing perspective, right? Mm-hmm. He did when he came down that escalator and he was like, Mexicans are all rapists and fucking they're murderers and shit. There was a part of that Republican Party, a very large, apparently, part of it that was like, oh shit, he's saying the thing that we want him to say, right? It's like us hearing Kamala say, you got to kick that fucking door down, right? Like for them, they're like, yeah, let's call everyone rapists. Weird. That's their call to arms because they're weirdos. And when that happened, he created that monster, right? Where he brought that monster up from the basement and said, all right, just go fucking walk around like normal. And the problem is that monster's already grown, man. It's outgrowing him. It's literally a movement that has outgrown him. And they're like, helping people win elections by saying reasonable shit? Get the fuck out of here, old man. We're not trying to hear that. I don't know if you've met Nick Fuentes. He's never touched a girl, but he's our leader now, right? And so the problem is, for him, they're going to keep getting weirder. And he's standing in the middle going, yeah, I'm pretty fucking weird myself, but Jesus Christ, shut the fuck up, guys. But they can't help themselves.
You're killing me here.
You're killing me, dude. And that's why JD Vance hurts him too, because JD Vance is a part of that same monster, right? And it's like, oh yeah, like, all right, we're all MAGA. And then you look up and MAGA means something different than what you meant it in 2016. MAGA is more the Marjorie Taylor Greene side than it is Donald Trump anymore. For 4 years, or during that campaign, you had control of it. And it feels like you still have control of it, but I feel like it's like a guy holding on to like a wild bull. Like you're still on there, but you're not controlling it. It just seems like you're in control. You're not in control. And them booing him for this proves that he's not really in control. Because as much as Turning Point USA seems like the fringe, they're not the fringe anymore. They used to be, but they're not anymore. Like, never forget that Turning Point USA and Prager University and all that other horse shit, fringe right-wing stuff, is now being taught in schools. It's no longer the fringe. It's legitimately the middle of their fucking party. And now those guys think that Donald Trump isn't pushing hard enough on abortion. That is insane to me. So, good. Please proceed. Because again, when people see you say this shit, they go, those guys are fucking crazy. No thank you.
Okay, that's the end of the free portion for this week's episode of Look Forward. Make sure you go to lookforwardshow.com/premium. Sign up for premium content. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the full year.